I have to confess to something. I think I was a little bit too harsh to OpenAI. I made this video, first impressions of GPT 5.4 that we made on the Arena. And my first impressions were a little bit lackluster. I would say I generated a bunch of examples here, and some of the examples were kind of clearly underwhelming versus some of the other leading models. So for example, this was 5.4 versus some Opus 4.6 generation of a cyclist, not even close, to be honest. And then I started playing with it more, and then we made this video, which is showing just a collection of GPT 5.4 generations, and they were really excellent. And you can watch this video and just look through a bunch of these generations. So what's the difference? What changed? And if you were careful and looking at the model names, before I was testing 5.4 medium, and now we have also added 5.4 high to the Arena. And this honestly made all the difference. And to be honest, I knew that, especially for OpenAI models, thinking makes a big difference. But to see such a huge difference where, frankly, medium model is kind of okay. It's not that exciting. I mean, I'm sure it's fine, and these tests don't show everything. But when you get these kinds of generations, you just feel slightly disappointed, slightly underwhelmed. But then when you play with high models and you see what kind of generations you get out of those, you are pretty impressed with what it can actually do. So let's go over some of the examples where we can really see and feel this difference. And also I've got some bonus generations for you. While we don't have those on the Arena, I've got some pro generations for you as well, just to give you a sense for how much more can reasoning give you. And the reason why we don't have it on the Arena, by the way, is that pro literally took me between about 60 and about 100 minutes to generate, which doesn't feel like is reasonable for us to host. We might need to raise another round for that. So let's look at some of the generations. So first of all, this is the Voxel Roman city center, and this is GPT 5.4 medium. I mean, it's fine. It's kind of okay, and we'll see some examples. I mean, it is coherent. It's not like awful, but it's not very exciting. Like, we've seen much better examples. So for example, this one is Sonnet 4.6. It's pretty cool. I mean, I don't love the colors, and I think the voxel bit of it is like a little bit, like, it's way too blocky. So even the GPT 5.4 here felt a bit more voxely here rather than just large blocks. But anyway, the Sonnet is already better. You compare it to Opus, and this is like really quite nice generation. I still would say that Coliseum feels like like kind of tiny. You'd expect it to be quite big and impressive. So I do have some problems with it, and there's some generations like the colors feel like a little bit too heavy for me. We look at Gemini 3.1 Pro. This looks quite cool. Like, I really like this. It has the different elements. Like, this is really quite a nice generation. But then this is GPT 5.4 high. I mean, come on, this is really excellent. If you compare it to medium, and this is just not even close how good this is. So I think on this generation, it's not going to be the case for every single one, but I think on this generation, it is better than Opus and Gemini. Just because of the coherence, the height, there's still definitely some problems with it, like these detached elements, but this is quite cool. Like, you look at it and you see like this is really nice generation, including water, city coherence, aqueducts here. Like, this is really cool. So we can, like, this one really cool example. Like, there's a massive difference. Then we look at Pro, and this is the level of coherence here is completely insane. Like, for example, you see we've got this arena here, we've got all of the different buildings in a completely coherent and organized way. Just the level here, even versus this, well, this does have nice aesthetic to it. This is far more advanced here. So this is also to give you a feel that OpenAI models specifically are much more susceptible to getting much better as the thinking time increases. If we now look at Golden Gate Bridge generation, I had this as well in the original video, and 5.4, I mean, come on, this looks like some kind of post-apocalyptic event, so this is not great. If we forget about like how terrible the cars look, I mean, there's certain elements like, I mean, it's bad, let's be honest. Sonnet is quite weird. It's not too bad, like there are roads that are together, but overall it's not great either, right? The bridge is not the right way. Things are like the water is weird, like it's not great either. You get to Opus and this is like really good. That's very coherent generation, things stand together. The bridge is probably the best one we're gonna see in terms of the accuracy and so on, so this is really nice. I would say like it's not that exciting like in terms of the generation. So there's like night sky is kind of okay, so there's definitely some room for improvement here, but it's really nice. Oh, you see the comment there. Yeah, but it's a really nice generation. I really like it. Gemini 3.1, it does look quite weird, the fact that it goes into the land here, but still the bridge does kind of stand together, the cars do go, traffic density increases, fog is like a little bit weird but does work. The waves don't really work, the time of day like doesn't quite work, and it's missing a combat here by the way as well, functionality actually. Oh no, it does appear overnight, so let's see if that does anything. So yeah, it's quite good. Actually I don't have the high here, but just to give you a feel here for the Pro, this again took like 60-90 minutes. The quality here, while there are clearly some issues in terms of like, if the water was extended, I think that will feel a little better, but I would say the quality does feel like really excellent. And again, this is just, and you can see the night sky here, I think the comment is like a little bit weird, but it's like, it's almost there. I think with 1 or 2 iterations, which admittedly is going to take you a long time, this is really like almost as good as you hope it to be. So I would say that this is, like, you can feel the big difference between this and this in terms of the Pro, like it's massive. Let's come on to the next one. So this is the Acropolis. If you watch these videos, you would have seen it a few times. I do quite like it. The medium one is kind of, I mean, it is something, but yeah, it's pretty hilarious. Like it does kind of look massively out of proportion and has kind of weird structure, but like not the worst one I've seen. The people here just look like pretty basic and so on. So you do feel like it's not a good generation. You look at Sonnet here, I'm actually very impressed with this. Like it's actually like better than you'd expect. People are still basic, but I would say the whole generation is quite good. There's some mistakes in terms of like how it matches the reality, but overall, like really nice generation. Opus I really like just kind of the vibe of it. Really quite nice. Obviously the roof is an issue, but in terms of the layout here, you can see that Opus is more accurate in terms of the attention to detail, except for the roof. If the roof was correct, then I think there will be near perfect generation. Gemini here is quite nice. The problem is there's some, I don't quite understand, but you can see there are clearly issues with the columns. They kind of all mashed together. The people, again, like at least different color, but quite basic. The time of day, I mean, that works reasonably well. The haze maybe is like a little bit too strong, but you know, it's a good generation. You get to GPT 5.4 high. I think it's more debatable which one you like best, Opus or, I think probably Opus is the nicer one here, just has more of a flair to it. But yeah, I would say that the difference between the medium one and the high one in here is completely insane. I mean, it's not even close. And that's something that I knew that there is a difference, but the fact that when you actually look at it side by side, how much different it is, it's kind of insane. So yeah, if you are using it, I would definitely say completely avoid low, medium reasoning levels, go high or maybe even X high, which I don't have examples here, but I think it's, I use X high personally quite a lot as well, so I do like it. And Pro here, we can see it's not miles better than this, and there is an issue with the roof being upside down. There are a few things that I like here which I think are distinct. Is the first one that did, although not quite realistic, but it did really attempt to build a path. And the second element is the humans they do feel like a little bit more natural, the way they're positioned. And this is the kind of thing that you get from bigger, longer thinking models. Not bigger, but longer thinking models. And the reason why we care about this is not that it's we care about the people standing around. Is that kind of attention to detail. Is that if you're gonna go and build something more complicated and you give a prompt, which could be detailed, could be not that detailed, but if you forgot to spell out a thing where, distribute the people naturally, don't just put them kind of in a row, like we've seen some examples here, or give them some color, then you're just gonna miss some of those details. And for example, the medium might not do as well as, for example, high here, because it's like maybe give some color and shape, but it's not going to do as well as Pro, because here it actually thought to distribute them more naturally, can capture your intent more broadly. So that's why we care about this, not the specifics of this. I'll just whiz through like a few more here just to give you a feel. So this is the medium one. And it's okay again. It's like there is some detail to it, but it's not a great generation. You compare it to Sonnet, like it's far more exciting. There are still some issues with like the fidelity. I mean, you can see the birds in the sky is like a little bit lazy the way it did it, but it's a nicer generation. Opus here, really much higher quality level of detail as well. So that is nice. Like you can, especially here you can see that. Then we've got the Gemini 3 Pro, 3.1 Pro here. Quite nice, but I would say Opus does feel much more detailed so far out of these ones. Then we've got the High. I think this is better than Opus personally. So side by side, when you do a bunch of these, it's kind of Opus seems to be close and head to head with GPT 5.4 High, specifically, not the medium. Medium is far behind Sonnet or Opus. And then we've got the Pro here. I feel like I really like the aesthetic and the sky. I feel like that's by far the best. But actually, I wouldn't say the quality here otherwise is better than High. So I would say maybe even High is still a little bit better here. So the last one I want to show you, again, same pattern. You see, I'm not cherry picking the examples here. It's all of the same ones that we're seeing here. Is that we've got the GPT 5.4 medium here. The quality is really not that good. I mean, this is, if you haven't seen Petra and the treasury there, it really looks nothing like it. Sonnet here this is much more accurate kind of layout, but the colors don't really work, and I mean you can see like obviously some issues. I mean it's not like a gap here. It's a kind of a big mountain, and there's something the treasury carved into it. Opus is far better here, so we can see the sky, the colors, the detail. Like that's really I find this to be a really nice generation. I quite like the kind of the vibe of it, and I think the structure is quite accurate, but it is quite lazy, like it just kind of put big blobs here. So it's like it's good and bad. I think the Gemini models, I do find this that they're a little bit inconsistent with how much effort they put in. Sometimes you get great generation, sometimes it's nothing. And 5.4 High here. So if you compare it to Opus, for example, I think Opus just feels like a little bit more coherent, but the level of detail that this has here, although I would still give this to Opus, it's really, really quite nice. And certainly if you compare it to the GPT 5.4 medium, and that's not even close, like that's not the same category. So this is far, far better here. And then lastly, compare it to 5.4 Pro. Now, it does feel a little weird. I think it's slightly gone a little bit heavy on the saturation of the colors. So it's like quite odd the way it ultimately looks. But I think this is kind of really impressive generation. So if you look at, come back to like Gemini 3 Pro, and it just puts some slabs here, right? And here it actually tried to do the carving, tried to represent the mountains. And the detail here is like it really tried hard to capture this. And I really like this, even though admittedly it doesn't feel a bit worse in terms of like overall vibe. I think this is representative of the kind of generations that you can get with higher reasoning levels. You really can think about the details of it far, far deeper and spend time ironing out those details. And again, the reason why we care about this is not that we particularly care about, oh yes, it's 5.4 Pro can like carve the mountains. That's not the point at all. But if you've got a heavy, difficult task, then that needs to go through your code base and think through the details and dependency, how things going to impact one another, then that's the kind of things that deep reasoning models can really, really help you with. And we see this once and once again. I mean, we've gone here for about 4, 5, 6 examples here where the medium generations are just not even close to the high ones, especially not that close to the Pro ones. But I would say that Pro is not the kind of model that you're going to use all the time, and sometimes you see the generations not super different, but that just hopefully gives you a bit of a feel for the trajectory of how much more reasoning is helpful. So what I would recommend you do in your day-to-day life, if you do use 5.4 and GPT models, really crank up that reasoning as high as you can. I do see some talk about whether you do really need X high versus high. I'm going to try and test that a little bit more in my day-to-day life, but generally, personally, I just crank it up to X high and kind of trust that it does a good job. But you might get away with high as well. But certainly don't get stuck at the medium level and push it a lot more, and you get much nicer generations that way.